Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another draft analysis. Here we are playing in this season of the Malorda Draft League, Season 6. We are playing in the Pirouette Division, uh, and this is a high tier Terra league, something different for me. Normally play low tier Terra. But yeah, we had 110 points to draft between 911 Pokemon and 2 Open Terras, um, with a maximum of 25. So, won't hold on any longer. Let's get straight into the draft. I believe I was the 14th pick. Just checking. I was the 14th pick. So normal for me. Always getting at the very end. So literally high tier terror stuff had already been drafted, which is alright. So we had to work our way around it. So for the first pick, I went and picked up Meowscarada. Just a really good mon. I've used it a couple of times. So a bit familiar with it. Grass dark typing, but also gets access to that protein ability, so really good. This thing is so versatile in what it can do. Runs so many different items, sets hazards, it's good Scarfer, good band, because it's quite fast with stuff, gets access to spikes and toxic spikes. Also has some really good just attacking moves, good at knockoff, U-turn, triple axle, flower trick. So yeah, Meowscarada here to be a strong physical attacker and make a good thing to could probably come every single week. So that's Meowscarada. Next up for second pick, I grabbed Quaquaval. That is this thing is a necessity on our team. It's Quaquaval. If I can get it in a draft, I'm gonna get it. It is one of the best just new mons as well out of Scarlet and Violet. Gives us access to two of the three Paldean starters, which is amazing. Water fighting, again, really good combo with that Moxie ability plus Aqua Step. It's the casual that most people know of. The casual set that most people know of, sorry. But this thing is so versatile, again, has stuff access to stuff like knockoff and triple axle and like Swords Dance to help those setup sweeps. But it also is quite a good defensive mon with Roost, Rocky Helmet, it gets access to Rapid Speed, so it also is able to remove hazards. And so yeah, I mean, you'll see Quaquaval around here quite often. You know how it works. It's just an amazing mon. So that's Quaquaval. Next up, I went and grabbed Pachyrun. I've been meaning to grab this thing for ages, so I'm glad I finally picked it up. It gave us access to that grounded poison. That is always good to have, and actually gives me access to a ghost type. I don't usually pick a ghost type. Don't know why, I just never do. Don't really like the lower tier ghost types as much, but you know what? We were able to pick up Pachyrun. So this thing's really good. The musical that came out of this gen. I think it gets. I don't think it gets access to toxic spikes. But that malignant chain and then move toxic to work alongside its poison puppeteer. I think that's what the ability is called. To confuse the opponent. Really good physical wall. Gets access to some good ghost type moves in Hex and Nightshade and Shadow Ball as well. Has recovery and recover, and also parting shots around lowering stats. So Pachyrun, really excited to try this thing out for the first time. Next up, had to make sure to grab a fairy type mon, and I picked it up in Alolan Ninetales, so also gives me access to that strong offensive ice typing. Sorry. So I haven't tried this thing out before in draft, but I'm actually keen to try it. Gives us access to snow, which is nice. It gives us a defense boost with that Alolan Ninetales. This thing's just a really good fast attacker. Access to some good things like blizzards and freeze dries and moonblasts, but also gets some cool niche moves. Obviously gets Aurora Veil, which is really nice. Gives us the dual screens in one. It also has access to Encore, which is really good. It helps stopping setup mons. So very excited to try this thing. And not just bring those offensive sets that you see, but also try it out and dive a little bit deeper into its move pool, because I know it does get some really cool stuff. So that is Ninetales. Next up, I went and got my first Terra Captain in Reuniclus. I think Reuniclus is such a good mon. Obviously, it's become a bit harder to use, I think, as the years have fallen over. More stuff that likes to sit in front of it, like the introduction of King Gambit. It's kind of a hard mon to use Reuniclus because its move pool isn't really that deep. It kind of just learns psychic type moves to be offensive. It does get a couple of extra moves, but it really struggles to hit like dark types outside of Focus Blast. So that becomes quite hard for it. But I think with the introduction of Terra for this thing, could be really good at giving access to Terra Blast. This thing does a lot of stuff. It can be really bulky with that regenerate ability to keep healing over time. It also gets Magic Guard, so stuff like Poison and Burns won't do anything. It can maybe switch in to Sponge of Status for us. Also gets access to Overcoat, which is really cool. Not as good as Regenerator or Magic Guard is sometimes, but it has its niches. It's also really good at setup. Just gets stuff like Calm Mind. I think it also gets. Does it get Nasty Plot? I'm not sure if it does. It also gets access to some really other cool, like I think it also Thunder Waves. It also I think it also has access to Knockoff itself. So getting rid of items can be nice on those bulkier sets alongside Recover. So yeah, that's very Reuniclus. Really excited to try it out as a Terra Captain. Next up is another mon that I haven't tried out yet personally, and I'm quite excited to see how it goes. I've grabbed Skarmory. This thing is known for being a physical wall, so it's really nice, but it's infamous. Yeah, sorry, I should say it's quite infamous for its physical bulk. I think it's like 140. Gets access to good ability and sturdy, allowing it to take on those hits. But this thing also is just the hazard nightmare for the opponent. Gets access to its Stealth Rocks, gets access to its Spikes. It's known for its Whirlwind sets, so just setting up hazards, whirlwinding on Pokemon out, especially stuff that doesn't want to run Boots, and then healing back up at the Roost. It also gets some really niche moves. It gets access to setup moves in Curse and Soul Stance, which is actually really cool. Also gets that Iron Defense Body Press set, which is amazing. Gets access to some nice coverage in Drill Run. I also think it gets Rock Slide and Exeter as well, which is really cool. Obviously, might like to run those drill runs into some fire types, you know, take a sturdy fire bullet, like off a flamethrower, take a sturdy, potentially fire back with a ground type move. But this thing is really good for its hazards and its Iron Defense Body Press sets, so expect that from Skarmory this season. Really excited to try it out. Next up, I grabbed my second and last Terra Captain in Raikou. I really like having an electric type in draft. If the opponent does not have a ground type, then it is always amazing to have the electric typing. But this also having Terra is very amazing. Just having access to any Terra is always really good. Allows us to potentially Terra out of our weakness to that ground typing, or Terra into something offensive to help against some other Pokemon. Gives us access to Bolt Beam with electric type moves and Terra Blast. This thing is also a demon, gets access to Calm Mind. Calm Mind sets are amazing, can also be run physically. Not as good as its special sets, but it has access to stuff like Extreme Speed and Iron Head. I believe it gets access to Screens. Can pivot around with Volt Switch, which is always really nice, so Choice Spec sets everything. And it gets access to Sunny Day and Rain Dance as well, so it gives us some more weather control. Obviously, don't think that would be much needed, especially with snow and Ninetales. But yeah, just get some nice coverage in stuff like Aura Sphere for steel types and Shadow Ball for dark types. Gets Scald as well for fire types and ground types that we could be running into. So Terra Water is never something out of the question, which should be really nice. So that is going to be Raikou. It's going to be just a really nice offensive threat for us. And yeah, it just gives us access to an electric type with some very good coverage. So that is Raikou. Next up is Mamoswine. Very excited to use this thing. Again, another thing I've wanted to grab in draft for so long now. I think it's quite overlooked a lot of the time because it tends to be on the pricier side. It could be rough, but it's obviously just quite a good mon. It hits so hard on the physical side. It's such a hard thing to switch into. Ice and ground gives it really good coverage. Ice hitting into the like flying types that don't want to take ground type moves, and then ground types hitting into like the steel types that want to take the ice type moves, you know, so it's a really nice coverage. Got access to Trailblaze this gen, so it makes it even more of a threat. Being able to boost its speed is really good. Again, it just hits hard on the physical side. Earthquake plus Icicle Quick Crash is so strong. Ice Shard as well with a band makes Ice Shard one of the hardest things to go into. It's such a strong pivoting move. Gives me access to another Stealth Rocker. Gets some good strong moves in Throat Chop and Stone Edge. Also gets Knockoff, Iron Head. Also can Heavy Slam and Body Press, which is really nice. It also gets access to Curse. So it does have a way of setting up as it doesn't get Swords Dance. But Thick Fat is just such a nice ability to have on it as well. Making us stronger against those Ice and Fire type moves, especially since we're weak to Fire type, is always nice. And then it also gets access to like Roar, which is really niche, but it stops things from being able to set up potentially. You never know when that can come into play. Its Life Orb sets are always strong as well. It's Choice Scarf. It's also a good abuser of Assault Vest. But yeah, being able to Trailblaze with some Life Orb sets is really nice. So that's Mammoth Swine. Also gets access to that defense boost from Alola Tails, which is also, I think, really cool. So it is able to abuse that defense boost. So I think that is Mammoth Swine. Really good. Second to last, penultimate one for us, I picked up Kamala. I see this thing as sometimes such a slept on low tier mon. Getting access to Rapid Spin, it gives me another spinner to get away hazards is amazing. So no defog here. Unfortunately, Samurai lost that, but it does, give us another Rapid Spinner. This thing has a base 115 attack stat. It's also nothing to sleep on the physical side. Its stab body slams are so good. It unfortunately lost its Protect Last Resort set in this generation, which sucked. Sorry, it's Sleep Talk Last Resort set with the Choice Band. They removed Last Resort. I think they removed it from the game. I don't know if they did. Eevee might still have access to it. But they did remove that from Kamala, unfortunately, as it was such a strong option. Yeah, no, Eevee does still have Last Resort. Interesting. But they took it from Kamala, which is unfortunate. But this thing can be quite bulky with an Assault Vest as well. Takes on some, just gets good coverage in like Earthquake. I think it gets Seed Bomb, Shadow Claw, Superpower. Gets access to Endeavor, which is really niche but really nice. Ice Spinner, Knockoff, just getting rid of moves. Play Rough, as the normal types do. They get good. It also pivots around with U-turn, so those normal types they always get good hazard removal. Good coverage moves. But it does also have access to Bulk Up and Calm Mind and Curse, so it has quite a bit of setup options itself. Obviously this thing can't be status, so this thing's really good for those teams that want to spam Thunder Wave, or it does have access to something with Spore, like an Amoonguss, that Toxics or Spores. So this thing's really nice to take on those hazard moves. But another really cool thing is this thing also gets access to Wish. Having access to Wishing and then slow U-turning out to potentially take an attack, just either protecting to keep itself healthy or potentially wishing up something else. Obviously its HP stat isn't as high as something like your Clefable or your Alola, so its wishes aren't passing back as much health, but keeping stuff healthy is always nice. So that is Kamala, very excited to use it. And lucky last, alongside it in ZU, Kamala and ZU, I've grabbed Lumineon as the last one, just a cheeky 1-pointer. I think this thing is nice for 1 point. Honestly, it's actually quite a fast mon, decently fast, 91 base speed. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it gives you access to a mon in between that 90 and 110-ish range. It has I think it's going to have a few niche users throughout the season. I feel like I could definitely see it coming to maybe 1 or 2. Gets U-turn and Flip turn, so it actually gets pivoting momentum, which is really nice. Unfortunately lost defog. I grabbed this thing thinking it might still have defog, but it doesn't anymore. That thing got removed from it, unfortunately. But it's actually its attacking stats are quite low in 69 in both its attack and special attack, so I mean it can be used on both sides. But this thing could be used with a Choice Scarf, you know, maybe I want to outspeed stuff, just get some chip on. It's got a really nice ability in Storm Drain, so to those mons that might not want to take on a water type move, like our Mammoth one, we can pivot it in and potentially take up a water type move, which is really cool. I mean, again, it's niche, but it also gives us that +1 in that special attack. so it might not make that special attack stat as useless as it might sound. Gets some cool coverage. Alluring Voice has access to Blizzard, so it could be spammed with that. Alolan Ninetales also gets Ice Beam. Hydro Pump, it gets Surf. Also it has access to Tailwind, which is really cool. Also gets access to Encore, which is really nice. Always potentially switching into something faster that's trying to set up. They don't know what a Lumineon does, and just clicking Encore could be really cool and locking stuff in. So 1 point, quite niche, but you know what, I think Lumineon, if I could find something to make it work, then it might come along to a game, you know? So I think that's really cool. And that's my team for MTL. I think it's really good. I think it's quite strong. I think I'm excited to test it out and test out some of the stuff that I've never used before. But yeah, I'm excited for this season. I hope you guys are too. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Come along and follow on for the season. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace out.